Welcome back, everyone, to the What Worked for Me podcast. I'm your host, Mike, and today we'll be talking with Courtney, who was able to successfully lose about 60, 70 pounds and get her PCOS symptoms in remission, and overall just really increase the quality of life. Courtney, is there anything else you'd like to introduce yourself with?
Not really. I'm a mom and that's what I do. But yeah, stay at home mom, it's nice.
All right. So every story and weight loss journey has a beginning, and I think it's good to go back to the very beginning of um, before you even gain the weight or how maybe you gain the weight. So let's get a little bit of health history of how you got, how you got to the point where you realize like, okay, I gotta maybe change my health and go on this health journey.
So I grew up fairly active and fit. I did a lot of sports growing up. That slowed down a lot once I got into college and kind of changed my goals and mentality of what I was doing. And I guess my focus had shifted off of fitness and off of being active. I wasn't in sports or extracurriculars outside of uh, like high school and so college, I definitely slowed down. And then I got married and my eating habits definitely changed. So I ended up putting on about 60 pounds and it made it so I was having a lot of um, terrible symptoms and I was feeling sluggish and awful. But yeah,
And
I was not feeling good.
when you say symptoms, were you talking about just the general weight gain symptoms, or were you kind of jump into where I know you talked about you struggled with PCOS? Is that when it manifested?
Yeah, definitely. That's where it definitely manifested. It was, I noticed it a lot more the more weight I was putting on, the more symptoms I was having, just the general heaviness in my body, the fatigue, and just not feeling like myself. And then the PCOS symptoms of severe bloating, pain, ovarian cysts, all of that.
So you kind of find yourself in the first few years of marriage, gone through some life transitions, ended up putting on a decent amount of weight. What was the point that you realized, like, okay, I got to change and take control of my health, and how did you start doing that?
Yeah, so I think the thing that kind of was a turning point for me was um mine and my husband's family like to take a lot of photos and they would take these pictures and I just see myself and I hated how I looked in the photos. Sorry, excuse me. And then also just me and my husband and I had started talking about wanting to start having a family and with everything going on with my body with the PCOS symptoms, I had gone into a doctor who had mentioned that I needed to take these symptoms seriously if I wanted to start having a family and get that under control.
Okay, so that was kind of the motivating factor that got you going. Um, did you take on a new nutrition regimen or exercise routine? What did that look like?
Yeah, so my doctor at the time recommended that I definitely increase my physical activity. Um, like I said, I was very active before, and then I stopped being relatively active with college and everything, and in marriage, I just started working a lot more and became a lot more sedentary. Um, so yeah, exercise definitely, a bunch of weightlifting, light cardio, that type of stuff is what she recommended. And then my nutrition had to change. With PCOS, you typically have um, you're insulin sensitive or insulin resistant. So you have to be mindful of what you're eating. So it made it so that I had to do high protein, low carb, little to no sugar. Um, that's how I had to go about changing my diet so that I could get healthier.
And so those were kind of the things that you focused on. And was it a pretty smooth transition? Did you hit any walls or did you just lose 60, 70 pounds straight out?
No, I definitely like you definitely hit some walls. Like that was definitely my experience is you try your hardest to be the best with your nutrition, but chocolate cake on Sunday night always looks really good. So I tend to um have little rebounds every once in a while, but for the most part it wasn't too hard because I knew that I really wanted to make the change and I wanted to look better. So I was committing to myself to be better and to do better.
Okay, and how long did it take you to lose that weight?
I would say probably like 8 months to a year, I think.
Okay, and how long ago was that?
Let's see. It was prior, I'd probably say about like 2018,
So a good
2019.
6 years ago. It's five,
Yeah,
6 years ago. So
yeah.
that's really impressive. Typically, when people lose weight, they end up regaining it back. What have you done to be successful with maintenance for the last 5 years?
I think I something that's always motivating for me and like keeps me on track with my goals is I keep that photo in my phone of when I was really big. So I look back at that and I think, man, I hated how much I like how terrible I felt and how terrible I looked. So I use that as a motivating factor. And then I just feel so much better on a day-to-day basis now, being a lot more healthy. I exercise regularly, I eat a lot better. So I think it helps a lot just to have like reminders of hey, like this is how it used to be, this is how it is now. Remember how terrible this was, remember how awesome this is,
Let's
you
not go
know?
back to how it was.
Yeah, yeah.
So, so you said at the beginning of the podcast that you were a mother and it sounds like you lost all the weight before you got
Hmm.
pregnant. There's always some weight gain with pregnancy.
Yeah.
Um, did you gain weight during pregnancy? Were you able to get it off? How did that go?
Yeah, so I definitely gained weight in my pregnancy. I was a little too lax with my nutrition in uh this sorry. I was very lax in my nutrition in that pregnancy. And so it just made it harder because I was a lot heavier and I gained a lot of fluid with my baby. So I ended up putting on, I think it was close to 60 pounds with my pregnancy because I went from 125 to I think 180. So yeah, I put on some weight, but um, having the healthy habits that I had before having my baby made it that much easier after having my baby to get back into my routine once I was cleared from my doctor to go back to my full-time exercising. And even during your pregnancy, they recommend if you are a physically fit person and you already have a workout plan in place, they like you to keep that up and maintain that throughout your whole pregnancy to make it so you don't gain as much weight. But sometimes it's easier said than done.
Before the podcast, we talked briefly, and you said that you had some additional health issues when you had to get a gallbladder removed. How has that affected your nutrition and your maintenance since that happened?
Yeah, so it definitely changes. You have to have like pretty severe diet changes just because you don't process fat the same anymore. So all of the really fatty foods, like you're not supposed to eat. So like it limited my diet even more. So I think it sometimes can make it uh easier to keep off weight because I'm not eating that really dense fatty foods. Um, but yeah, it definitely changed my nutrition a lot. So I think it helps. But yeah, you definitely notice a difference when you eat something you're not supposed to. It changes how you feel.
Right. So you mentioned that you were restricted on carbohydrate and sugar intake from the PCOS, and now you're restricted on fat intake because of the missing gallbladder. How do you keep yourself from just getting frustrated and feeling like you don't get to enjoy anything?
It's pretty hard. Like there are definitely days that you get like very frustrated just because I think you can see everybody eating everything that you want to eat, and it's you kind of feel like the world isn't fair, you know. But I think it's just I just remember like how crappy it is after I eat those foods that it makes it easier for me to make the choice beforehand to say like I don't even want to put my body through that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you just know the consequence
Oh
isn't worth
yeah.
the food.
No. The
So
5 minutes of happiness that you get from that Reese's peanut butter cup is not worth the hours of stomach cramps afterwards.
yeah, I'm sure that makes it easier when there's a little bit of instant positive reinforcement there.
Oh, definitely.
So I've been really impressed with your story. You've lost 60 pounds, you've been able to maintain it. What do you think was your biggest mistake along the way that you would avoid if you could go back?
I think giving into like um a lot of like cultural norms, I guess, of like eating overly processed foods and just buying what's convenient and what's like pre-made in there. I think that's the thing that's been I think that was my mistake. And then just choosing not to put myself first, not like taking my health and my body seriously. And like, I definitely feel the consequences of it even now. Like, I question, like, if I didn't eat that certain way or I didn't put on so much weight, like, had I, like, would my health be in a different place than it was today, if that makes sense. Like it makes me like not necessarily regret, like I'm grateful that I went through it so I could understand and like take my health seriously now. But I wish I wouldn't have done it and had all the consequences of doing it before, if that makes any sense.
So kind of two things you touched on, don't getting letting yourself fall into cultural norms and kind of the bad habits of the people around you. And then the second one I think was really important, where almost your biggest mistake you said would just not be to gain the weight in the first place. So just would have stayed healthy.
Yeah.
So I mean I think that's ideal for anyone.
Yeah.
Um, Last question I'm going to ask you. I truly believe that when we go through things, we get that firsthand wisdom. If you were going to give someone just one quick tip on how to start their own health journey and better their life, what would it be?
I think my tip would just be to just start. Like, it's really hard to find the motivation and to like be able to reflect back and be like, okay, like I actually need to do this. So I think that would just be my tip, I guess I would say is um just start. It doesn't have to be something like big or extreme. Like I think me and my husband, we literally started going for like 5-minute walks a day to like slowly build into things. And it's like it it doesn't have to be hard and it doesn't have to be difficult. Like you need to find things that are simple that fit into your life. And like I think just putting one foot in front of the other and taking one little step each day, like you'll look back and notice how far you've come in a couple weeks or a couple months. Like you'll make the difference. You just have to start.
I really like that. No time like the present, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for your time. I learned a lot from you. I thought this was a great podcast. Once again, for our listeners, this was Courtney. Thanks for coming on, and we'll just kind of wrap it up then.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Okay, have a nice day.
You too. Bye.